from the studios in beautiful Oceanport, New Jersey. Welcome to the biggest and greatest podcast ever. I'm your host, Ray K. Hey guys, another episode of Catching Up with Ray K here on a beautiful day. Actually, it's a first rainy day in about 60 days, so I'll take it because you need the rain on the grass because it helps the grass grow. That's what they tell me anyway. Anyway, we got a nice show today. I'm going to talk about what we've been catching up on over the last week. Some of the stuff is interesting. Actually, I'm going to talk about the importance of connections and networking, and one particular connection that could lead to something real big. We'll see, and I'll explain how and why. And then I'm going to talk about my little high school reunion we had. One of my dear friends, passed away in December. My good friend Nick, who I was friends with since third grade, my longest friend. You know, he had some bad health the last few years, and his heart gave out actually, and he had a big heart, and he passed away in December. So we had a nice thing in August, just about a week and a half ago, at the Monmouth Racetrack, which was a celebration of Nick's life, which is how he would want it. He was one of those friends that loved life, loved to laugh, and we had a lot of good time. I'm going to talk about that whole thing. Then there was a little reunion later that night with a whole bunch of high school people. So I'll talk about my feelings and all that stuff. So anyway, so I'm going on Twitter, and I see Lenny Dykstra, who, has kind of controversial, So I just tweeted him because I have a podcast. I do it for fun a lot, as we all know, and so I wanted him to come on because I thought he'd be a pretty interesting guest. And he beats me up like anything on Twitter. You have no following. Why should I come on? You didn't pass the elevator test, so I'm not going to come on. And he kind of beat me up, and so I kind of came back at him. And you don't know what you're talking about. So I then he came back at me and was saying, I wish I erased it, or I deleted it. I wish I took a text on it because it was pretty interesting the way he was. And he kind of said he was only kidding. Now I could say that I got, that nails got me, or, whatever they call that when you get someone, you troll, whatever, you were trolled by nails. So then he came on, and I interviewed him, and, he gave me actually a pretty calm interview. It was a pretty good interview, talking a lot about his career, and we stayed mostly on that, and he made a lot of sense. I was kind of shocked because he seems like he can be a shocking guy. Then I did a little dinner video with him in New York at a steakhouse. A friend of mine filmed it for me, and we put it out. It was like a 45-minute dinner, and we were just doing that thing when you talk over dinner. And it was fun, and he was telling me all of the stories, and, he was kind of promoting his boxing match with that bagel guy in Atlantic City coming out up in a few weeks. It's sort of like Ali Frazier, they're pumping the fight, and it's all part of the sizzle, and he's going to hurt him, and he's going to beat him up, and, all that stuff. And then we were talking about the career. So he kind of liked me, he kind of said it a few times, hey, you're a good guy, I said, thanks, so... Anyway, that was that a few weeks ago, and then I introduced him to. I thought he'd be a great person to introduce to my dear friend now, Eric Hewson, who I had on my podcast a couple times. If you want to go back and hear a good podcast, listen to that one because he's started a nonprofit called "We're All a Little Bit Crazy," a little tongue in cheek. Basically, that we all suffer, through challenges, as he calls them, which is you could, it's all different challenges. It's not just a 1 in 5 that suffer, and then we all, feel bad for them, the 4 and 5. It's like we all have issues of things that have happened. You can't go through life without them. You might know someone that died. There's so many things that happen in life that you're going to be affected somehow by something. So some people more than others, but no one gets out scot-free. So that's his whole thing. Is it's okay to talk about it because you're not alone. And there's a lot of athletes, he calls them everyday heroes are on it. And it just, a light bulb went off. I'm like, wow, we're all a little bit crazy. What better guy to see if you could turn around, if he wants to get turned around, than Lenny Dykstra, who was an all-star a baseball player for the Mets and then the Phillies. I think he was All-Star for the Phillies. Actually had a pretty nice career, 285 lifetime batting average, which isn't too shabby, and had like 3 to 4 like great seasons. All-Star 3 years, World Series champ. Only played about 7, maybe 8 years, and then he had a lot of issues. You just kind of read about him, felt bad about him, and over the last 6 years, I think he's been trying to, get his act together. And I kind of caught him at the good part of his life that now he really wants to get his act together, as he opened up to me about. So I connected him with Eric. It's like the ultimate crazy guy that wants to get better, was sort of the gist of, even though I know he's not all crazy, but, we're all a little bit crazy is the website. So I hooked them up. We had a great talk. Lenny wants to, rehabilitate himself. He knows he's still him, but, some of it's a put on, some of it is him. And he wants to really, in his third chapter of his life, he wants to help people, and he wants to tell his story, and he wants to, advise people sort of like what not to do and what to do as he's, coming out of this into this rehabilitation stage. So it's actually a pretty cool thing. So we meet for dinner. No, we meet in the office of another guy, this guy Don, in New York, free office space. So Don gives us the space. We meet for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it went by in like 10 minutes. So Eric's telling him all about, we're all a little bit crazy. Lenny's telling about how he wants to, help people, and he really wants to get the word out. He could speak at schools. He could speak at sporting events. He could speak, he's been through everything, basically. He has literally been through everything, and, he's sorry for things he's done. No one's perfect, so, I forgive, so, and he wants to make the world a better place, which is almost shocking to hear after you kind of read his, his little story, so it's actually very uplifting. And Eric's going to give him a stage. I think he's going to pursue it. Lenny says he's all in, and he's going to give speeches around the country regarding his life and his career, and what he's done wrong and what he's going to be doing to get better. It's an open-ended book because we all don't know how any of our lives are going to end, and we don't know really where this is going to be. It's not like, okay, he's good now forever. He's healed. So, that's part of the tension of it, because we really don't know if it's going to work out, but he wants it to, so he's going to be speaking around the country, starting, maybe in a few weeks even, but Lenny, when you get a guy like that, they know everybody. He tried to get Pete Rose on my podcast, which would have been pretty interesting, I guess. And he could pick up the phone and, call Curt Schilling tomorrow. He could call these guys up. And he was good friends with Charlie Sheen, which is a pretty interesting combination, who has, a lot of issues now, including, I think he just announced that he has HIV. So, he has a pretty good, he could get on Howard Stern anytime he wants. And I think he's going to get on there, and he's going to talk about we're all a little bit crazy. Maybe even have Eric on there, because Howard has such a huge audience, which is nice that he has that. And I think he sees a psychiatrist himself, so he would really relate to that. As, you hear about the guy that just retired, Andrew Luck, he kind of hit a wall, with mentally. There's physical health and there's mental health, and he hit it, maybe a little physical, but, a lot of it's mental. And he retired, at age, whatever it is, 29 or 30, mostly in his prime. He just couldn't take it anymore, so that was probably a good move on his part, for his own well-being, because who knows what could happen, with the pressures and everything. And if you don't play football 100%, you're in grave danger of getting hurt. That's like one of those sports you have to play 100%, so that was the answer. Yeah, you read about these things every week. Something seems to come out on the mental side of it, So anyway, Lenny's going to help, spread the word and use his platform to, get on different TV shows and so forth. He could call Larry King up tomorrow and get on, So, one thing about these kind of athletes that used to be A athletes, now they're kind of like, I guess, like B minus or maybe B plus athletes. They're not A's anymore because they're not playing. Shaquille is probably still an A, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But, Lenny's not an A. You know, you got to be sort of playing now to be an A-list, but they know all the A-list guys, you know. So now from that is kind of where I'm getting at. So I meet this other fella, a sports marketing guy, and it's all about connections. We all know that, all about networking. And we were going to meet today because Don was going to be in my neck of the woods, actually 5 minutes away. But he got his meetings took a little bit long. He got tied up, so we kind of did it on the phone. And I had Carl Palmer on, which I'm going to release on the weekend for my Labor Day special podcast about the big water crisis in Newark, New Jersey, which is starting to get a lot of news. There's protests in Newark. It's on MSNBC. Brian Williams really bashed them because they were handing out like expired bottle of water, you know. And they were making it hard for people to get the water and so forth. So now there was a protest the other day. Starting to get national now. New York Times is putting some articles out. So I told Don this. I said, look, we have a solution. Carl Palmer, probably the foremost expert in the world on water, has a product that is, you know, takes all the lead out, takes everything, you know, 99.99% of most of these all these particles out. And he went through them all on my podcast what they take out: chlorine, arsenic. There's a whole bunch of bad stuff in drinking water. You don't want to know, because if you knew, you'd never drink tap water again, or you never drink bottled water again. You know, but I mean, I've been drinking this stuff for 2.5 years, and I can't leave home without one of these bottles because it actually tastes good too. So anyway, I have Carl on the podcast, and then right after that, I have the call with Don, who I would not have met if I didn't meet Lenny, because I introduced Lenny to Eric, the guy from A Little Bit Crazy, you know. So see how it's all coming together? So I called Don, and we're talking about it. I said, look, Don, what do you do exactly? And we're talking about stuff. And I said, let me mention this to you. I go, you probably heard, because Don lives in New Jersey, about this huge water problem in Newark, which there are problems all around the countries, including actually all around the world, but around this country particularly, most of the cities, Flint, Michigan, there's a lot down south, because the pipes have lead, and the lead will get into the water. I mean, just the way it is. And to replace these pipes, it takes about 8 years, and, you know, crazy money. Newark, they got it like over $100 million, and it's going to take 8 years. So what happens within those 8 years? Plus, once you replace I don't mean to get overexcited here, but once you replace the pipe, it's going to happen again. I mean, the lead's going to get in there, and it's like a perpetual type situation. So Carl has a solution. He brought it to Flint. They didn't take it, of using their filter, which is a family pitcher, for example. You just put it under the water at the end source. You know, it's not in the ground, but it's after it all comes out of the faucet. And you just drink it. I mean, it's just so simple. I don't know why, you know, people seem to like to complicate things, you know, where the actual simple solution is right before your eyes. I mean, I could solve this problem tomorrow in Newark, in Flint, Michigan, anywhere. That's how powerful I am. If they would heed the advice and just use this product, it's a very good product. It takes a lot more of the chemicals out than Brita. Again, I don't want to bash anybody and all that, but I believe the Seychelles water system is the best in the world. From what it takes out. They have a high pH system that no one has. Blah blah blah. They got about 20 different filters, but this one would be perfect for Newark, and we have a call set up on September, coming up in a couple more weeks, with the policy advisor for Governor Murphy. Thanks to Jim Dowd, my friend, who was the first New Jersey guy ever to play hockey in the NHL, who knows Governor Murphy's wife, Tammy. So you see how it's all connected that way. I mean, I would never got to him if it wasn't for Jim. So anyway, we set this meeting up with 4 policy advisors. I mean, it could die right there, or they could just walk it down the line and nothing happened. But I think they're serious now because of all this publicity they're getting from Newark. I mean, they're getting blasted by it. And lead's terrible for you. I mean, Carl, if you listen to my podcast coming up Sunday, I mean, he rattles off like all the bad things that it does to you. I mean, it's almost like if you had a book of what's the worst things that could happen to people, it's all in there. I mean, literally everything, cancers, heart stuff, brain damage. I mean, you name something bad, and if you drink bad water, because, we are made mostly of water, whatever the number is, 70 or 80%, so water is kind of important, it's probably the most important. If you go 3 days without water, you're going to die. Just don't go out without water for 3 days. Go outside. A good friend of mine went on a boat for 3 hours without water, and he almost had heat stroke. So can you imagine going 3 days? That's how important water is. And if you're going to drink it, you might as well have it clean. Why would you want it not clean? Because there's over time it wears on you. You're not going to die by having to think of arsenic water. I drink arsenic water, but because of the time of it, years and years of it, it takes its toll on your body, and all these chemicals do. So anyway, I have the podcast with Carl. I'm talking to Don, and I said, do you know any athletes? Because I know a way that this word could get right out now if I had an A-list celebrity. Because Seychelles, the water company I'm talking about, has a low, it's a small company. They don't have a $20 million a year budget like Brita. They just don't. They're growing, but it's a small situation. But if they had the right guy, as I told Don, if I could get an A-list celebrity that really is into the cause, and you can make a lot of money at it too, because a A-list celebrity is going to sell a lot of these bottles, just to get the word out. And Don had a few people in mind, so I'm going to meet him next Thursday at an event. And actually he brought up a great humanitarian guy I'm finding out, and that's Shaquille O'Neal, who Shaq is from Newark, So talk about a perfect guy to be able to talk about this, of a terrible problem right in his own backyard of where he grew up. And we have a solution to help all those people. I mean, it's almost a perfect thing, but it rotates around. It's not just Newark. I mean, it's an effect that will go into Flint. Once somebody has the foresight to use this product, then I think it's going to be, like a domino effect. Then other cities will hit, and we could literally, we could clean up the whole water in the whole country. Then it's a world situation too, because you got Puerto Rico, remember that last year. You got Africa. I mean, around the world, the water isn't good. You don't want to go to pick a place, Dominican Republic or Haiti, and just drink out of the tap. I mean, you don't do that. You either drink Coke or Coca-Cola, or you drink, iced tea that's bottled, or you got to bring a filter. That's the only way to do it, unless you want to get sick. So it's a worldwide thing. So through these connections, which was interesting, through Lenny to Eric to this guy Don, and then I had Carl because I had him on a podcast today. Everything kind of fit in, and you need for these things to happen, you seem like you need 4 or 5 things in a row to hit good, along with timing. And so the timing is there, and we'll see what happens. But at least we're in the game, and the world is in good shape. There are the Carl Palmers out there that want to help the thing. So now we just hope the other side that has the power heeds the advice. And worst case, if they don't heed the advice, if we get a great celebrity that could make people aware of this product, then we'll just go to Newark and just give them cheap water and just give it to them, at a unbelievably low price. I mean, you could drink a year of water for $29. I mean, that's how low it is, as opposed to buying bottled water, which costs $300 a year average. So, and then you got the plastic situation, that the green, that this plastic bottle that we use, it's not the plastic that crunches in the bottles. It's what do they call it? The BFA. It's the plastic that you keep using over and over for 10 years. So the oceans and the landfills, there's no plastic issues. So it's like good that way too. So I mean, every which way you look at it. So I'm kind of excited about it, because I mean, how often can you possibly get a celebrity in to tout your product? That would be good for them, and also it could be a moneymaker too, because you're going to sell a lot of product, even at a cheap cost. You're still going to make money at it, So it's I like using the phrase, it's like a win-win-win. It's like 3 wins. So we will see. I'll keep you abreast on that. I think it's September 16th or 17th. We got the call with the policy advisor. I think there's going to be 4 of them on the phone with us and Carl, me, Jim, and Dowd, the hockey guy, and Carl. So, I mean, it's going to be exciting. And then we'll see which celebrity we can get to tout our product. I know Kevin Garnett did some drink thing I saw on TV, and they sold millions of bottles of this thing just because a celebrity is drinking it, So anyway, that's the deal with that. So, it's nice to have that kind of thing going, and it's nice to leave a legacy that you could actually, save lives, because your health is at stake, and we all know your health's worth, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be Steve Jobs now. I wouldn't want to be Steve Jobs 18 years ago. I'd rather be me, and I'd rather be healthy, So I guess it's worth about $10 billion, your health, at least, So now my reunion. I'm going to talk about that because that was interesting. Because my dear friend, as I said earlier, Nick died back in December. So we had a thing in August for Nick. Excuse me. I got some peanuts caught in my throat. Okay. So we had the thing for Nick. So we had about 40 friends that really liked Nick and that admired Nick, and Nick kept in touch with all his Christmas cards. And it was nice. It was like a 3-hour event. It was a buffet. It was nicely done. You could bet on the horses right there under the tent we were. It's a good thing if you want to rent these things because it was really cool. It was nice and shady under the tent. It was beautiful weather. I've seen people there I haven't seen in 20, 30 years. So it was a Nick event. So Nick would have been proud of us and happy that we had it because we were all together again. Reminiscent about Nick, taking pictures. It was more of a happy thing. As opposed to sad, because enough time has gone by that we got over our mourning a little bit, even though we're still sad, and it was an uplifting type thing. Telling all the funny stories with Nick. We've seen all those great things he drew. He was like a great artist, like in 3rd grade. He could draw Batman perfectly, stuff like that. So it was nice. And then later that night, there was a reunion. Happened to be that night of the whole school, where I graduated. My friend calls me at 10. He goes, "Hey, this guy's here, that guy's here." And it's late, but the place is open till 2. So I shoot down to Lakewood. And I meet a couple guys I haven't seen since high school, since like 1978. Yeah. So it was just kind of fun catching up because now you go through life and it's just different relationship than when you had that when you were in college. You just kind of we're all on the same level now. We've all been through it all, and it just was fun catching up with some guys. And a couple of people I wish I knew them like I know them now back in high school. Because you missed that whole thing of what they are. It would have been fun if you just known them better, but you didn't. And so there was a bunch of people like that, and we closed the place up. I was talking to a few guys, guy, pretty cool wrestler. We're talking about race car driving, and it's funny because you kind of pick up like the years didn't pass. It's like I just met him yesterday. You just kind of pick right up. It's like one of those phenomenon. I guess being a human being, I know you adjust quick being human. I guess it's that kind of thing too. You just kind of could pick up like it was yesterday again. So anyway, I met some new people too. I went to high school with. I never even knew. So that kind of thing is interesting. So I met like 5 of those people. It's like I never knew you in high school, but I'm glad I know you now. But then you leave, and then I guess you hope you meet him on the next reunion, which I guess maybe is next year. We're getting older, so you can't have these things every 5 years. 'Cause I don't want to be 98 on the next one. Not that I'm 93 now, but you know what I mean. I don't want to just have 3 of these left because it is fun. So why not do them every year? There's no rule you got to wait 5 years. So we closed the place up and came home. And, it's just a great feeling. It's a cool thing to do. You don't want to do it every day, but it's once a year. It's fun to catch up with these people. A couple guy, I told you, I think, a story with my pool. The guy that dug my pool. We're gonna, be going to Yankee games soon, and that was fun when you meet a guy from back then, and then you're friends now, and because of the connection, you renew a friendship, and now you kind of are hanging out again. So that thing is kind of cool of it, So there were a couple of those kind of things that even guys I kind of liked, and because there was no social media, you lose touch. Back in the day, I remember when my friend moved to North Carolina, it was like you never see him again because there's no way to keep in touch, and you never write because I my friend he left, and it was I didn't even have his address, so it's like how am I ever going to reach this guy again? But now I'm in touch with him because of Facebook and because of all the social media stuff. So it is a good thing that way, and it's like you're back again. So it's just a kind of a funny thing. So that was a cool reunion. So that was my fun thing, and I'll give you 3 word associations that I'm just going to make up now. Weights. I'm going to say weights, lifting weights. I started lifting again, and lift slow. You got to start light like anything and build up. So that was my weights. Okay, I'm going to look around my room and pen. What comes to mind when I hear pen? Write. You need a pen to write, I guess, right? Or a pencil. So pen to me means writing, and nothing is better than writing down your thoughts if you can do it. You know, if you can remember to do it, you get clarity. There's a human thing between your brain and your hand when you write, that some kind of like spiritual connection comes in, and you could write things better than you could say them, you know? So writing is important because you could there's some kind of, I don't know what it is, some kind of connection that goes into your hand. Maybe it's that extra second that it takes the brain to float there that kind of gives you time to think of what to say. I don't know. Some kind of magic comes into writing. So that's when I think of pen. And hey, this is perfect because I have it with me now. Water. Water, I guess, is life because, you know, the oceans are water. You have to drink water. You're made of water. You know, you got to take showers. You got to take baths. You know, most everything's made of water. So you need rain. If you have a drought, look what happens to, you know, the crops when there's, so yeah. Actually, as I'm talking about it, water is probably the most important thing in the world, you know, now that I think about it, because without it, everything would die. So I'll leave on that note. I hate to leave on a bad note, but, but with water we live. So I'll put it that way, you know. So we all got water, and it's going to be healthier water because of Carl Palmer and the Seychelles. So we're on the right track. So anyway, go Packers. You know, football's coming up. I'm going to talk a lot about football in the next Catching Ups. I mean, it's going to be a great year for my team and for all of football. So, you know, baseball's going great. My Yankees are doing fantastic. So this is my funnest year. It's almost like the Scranton AAA team is like leading the league. You know, they're making every move is great. You know, so it feels like 1978 or 1998 again. I mean, it's just they're never out of it, and it's a great team. You know, I had Ray Negron on the other day, who knows a lot of Yankees. So, Ray, if you listen to my podcast, I want to get a couple of them on. You know, so I'm going to work you to get some on. I want to get word out for these guys because they do a lot of good charity work. So, and it's a very fun year. So, anyway, that's the scoop. Until next week, we'll see what happens. This is Ray K. Catching Up with Ray. Catch you next time.